Welcome to Sonic the Hedgehog, specifically Sonic Lost World. This game is an enigma, panned by critics while defended by Sonic fanatics to the grave. But before I get into my thoughts about Lost World, let's talk a bit about my experiences with the Blue Blur. Throughout my life, I've always been a Nintendo guy, so you probably could have guessed that my first Sonic game was Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube. This game blew me away as a kid, particularly because I didn't even know Sonic existed before that. Not only was I running fast as a blue anthropomorphic hedgehog, but I was skating like a boss as Shadow, blowing shit up as Tails and Eggman, and scouring the lands for shards of the Master Emerald, or even kicking it back and raising some chow. There was tons of stuff to do in this game, and as a kid I loved every minute of it, even playing hours of multiplayer with my brother in the battle mode exclusive to this version. We even made up our own little game within a game by pretending we were taking a trip to our cousin's house while racing as Sonic and Shadow. And may I add, exclusively Sonic and Shadow, since Amy broke the damn game!
Yeah! Just wait a minute! Yeah!
Come on! What? 30 seconds? Come on! It sounds pretty dumb now, but it just shows how endearing these games were as kids, and it wasn't just me. This was many people's first introduction to Sonic, and at the time, it did a pretty good job. But I digress. Fast forward years through all the horrible and polarizing games: Shadow, Sonic 06, Secret Rings, Unleashed, and Black Knight. My first game to bring me back to the franchise was Sonic Generations. When you're planning to talk about good Sonic games, you better well be talking about this game. Coming off of a decent Sonic Colors, Generations knocked it out of the park. I say Sonic Colors is just decent because while it was a huge step in bringing Sonic back to life, it was still a bit rough around the edges. Seriously, what is this monstrosity? In my opinion, Generations perfected what the fans called the boosting formula, along with awesome 2D levels in reference to Sonic's early days. However, the modern sections of the game really stole the show for me. The big thing that sets Generations apart from other Sonic games for me is that I felt powerful. This was the first time I actually felt like I was running at the speed of sound in a Sonic game. As fun as SA1 and 2 are, this new sense of speed is unmatched. You can really only go so far in these games without losing control and running into some BS enemy placement. The levels in Generations, however, were faithful to the original games while being expertly crafted to give a good sense of flow. The challenge was still there, but an expert could cruise through these levels at light speed. That's really what the series needs. The majority of complaints are not about the graphics, the story, or the foundational mechanics. The main complaint I hear is that someone just wants to run fast, and every little shit is placed in a manner that only after 20 playthroughs are they able to get through without this. Cool game. Cool! So, what's the point? Why am I gushing about Generations? Well, this is why.
Happy birthday, bitch. Ow.
New Sonic game. New Sonic game. New Sonic game!
Yeah. Sonic. It's fun.
Oh. Oh no. Oh no! No! Oh, no! Sonic Lost World is just a mess of a game. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be talking strictly about the gameplay. So just to get it out of the way now, the presentation is some of the best we've seen of the franchise. And the story is, shit. In Lost World, Sonic controls vastly different from previous games like Generations and Colors. Instead of shooting off at breakneck speed, he does this. Breathtaking, right? In order to move at a more Sonic-y pace, you have to hold down the R trigger. At this speed, Sonic doesn't even break the pace of Sonic Adventure. The difference between this and other Sonic games is that you go from walking speed to full speed in about 1 second. Sonic's trusty spin dash makes its return as well, which is where he's at his fastest. But for the majority of the game, new players especially are going to be running, not spin dashing. When running at this speed, Sonic has the ability to parkour by running at most objects at a variety of angles. You can run directly up a wall or a tree and even hop to the side. You can run along the wall by approaching it at a 45-degree angle. You can also hop between walls in both 2D and 3D sections. And finally, you can grab on small ledges and even hop over them. To be honest, I really enjoy the parkour mechanics, but I'll talk more about that later. For right now, there's really only one thing to note here. There's absolutely no momentum. This was a good idea in theory, but executed shittily. Let me elaborate. Probably the biggest complaint about the series as a whole is that Sonic controls like ass. And most of the time, I agree with that. Sonic Team has never really stuck with something they're familiar with. Every time they do well with a certain style, they do something that screws it all up. After Sonic 3, the jump to 3D was inevitable. After Sonic Adventure 2, we all saw how Heroes in 06 turned out. And after Generations, we got this. Lost World's conception was a result of addressing the complaints made about Sonic's control, except they didn't do it right. And if I was any other idiot on the internet, I could just sit here and nitpick every backwards decision they made with this game. But I won't. Instead, the purpose of this show is to ask, what if this kind of game existed? What if this game was good? Today, I want to bring a bit more positivity to Sonic Lost World. But what positivity can you bring about a game that's so critically panned? You make it better.
Ready? Go!
First things first, Sonic's control. Sonic needs to be fast, no question. If I wanted him to run slow and jump on shit, I'd be playing Mario. Sonic is a platformer, but speed is what sets him apart from the others, yet merely making him run faster isn't the answer. In Lost World, he feels sluggish because of a few different factors. His jumps are really confusing in the sense that if you're in motion, he jumps normally, but when you aren't at top speed, his jumps are cut real short. This has gotta go. He's already painfully slow in the platform-heavy 2D sections, where quick consecutive jumps will have you find your way into a bottomless pit, so keeping his jumps consistent is very important. Another thing that absolutely infuriates me is that if you turn too hard in 3D sections, Sonic stops on a dime. This is especially annoying on those tube levels, you know, the ones that suck unless you're doing a spin dash. In fact, Sonic seems to just control infinitely better when doing a spin dash, so I suggest that Sonic's control when spin dashing is moved to his normal running animation. There just seems to be so much more flow when spin dashing, none of this stopping on a dime nonsense. Since his spin dash has now in theory become useless, it needs something to spice it up, and I think the best thing to do would be to have it function like it did in Sonic Adventure. Instead of acting like the boost from Generations, it gave you a short speed boost that would slow down if you held it too long, but the really cool part was the spin dash jump, extending Sonic's natural jumping distance. I feel that this could bring the depth that Lost World craves, in a way that doesn't have shitty controls. Sonic Lost World may have shitty controls, but the way they decided to teach you these controls is unbelievable. Remember the gamepad? Some games use this thing properly, while others either don't use them, or use it in such an idiotic way that I'd rather forget the thing existed. This game is one of those. This game, it thinks it's okay to give me a tutorial prompt, and instead of showing it on screen, I have to look down at the gamepad, touch the icon on the screen, and then read these stupid hints. Save the animals by destroying Eggman's badniks! Really? This isn't Sonic. This is slow. This is blatant shoehorning into the gamepad and better be removed in a potential sequel. On that note, everything having to do with the gamepad in this game is just bad. The color powers control horribly beyond not even performing as advertised. The circus minigames are a chore, and the hints... Need I say more? Let's be honest here. Sonic and this asymmetric gameplay the gamepad offers don't go together too well, so the less looking away from the TV the better. Leave it at off TV play. The last thing I want to talk about today is the level design. The majority of the stages are obviously Mario Galaxy inspired, and before you murder me, that's not really a bad thing. While the tubular sections of the main stages last, they're really fun to run around in. Approaching each section of a level in a different way is a great way to extend the replay value, but the problem is, they don't last long enough. More often than not, exploring these alternate pathways just leads to mock speed sections with more rings to get extra lives, not finding the fastest route. This doesn't really encourage exploration too well, especially after the patch that changed the fact that 100 rings no longer netted you a life. Now that they fixed that, you'll never see the game over screen again, so what's the point of all these rings? There's already enough rings lying around that exploring these areas becomes pointless. Obviously, changes should be made that encourage exploration, and that choosing an alternate pathway brings you to a completely new section of the level you've never before experienced. On one final note, the camera needs to have control so that you can see where you're going when backtracking. Please. Lost Worlds may in fact be a mess of a game, but it's not a lost cause. A lot of the framework is there to make a really great Sonic game. The fact that the devs at Sonic Team took into account the fan feedback and built a game entirely around that premise is pretty awesome. And even though I've been really harsh on the game today, I'm really excited for the improvements a sequel could bring. If there's one thing we know for sure about Sonic Team, it's that they can really make a game work through future iterations. Case in point, the increased polish we saw in the jump from SA1 to 2, and from Unleashed to Generations as well. And that's why I brought up Generations in the first place. The dark days of Sonic are over, and now we can expect good games from now on. Oh. Fuck. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Let me know if you liked it or hated it, but more importantly, what do you think could have made Lost World great? What do you want to see in a sequel? Sound off in the comments below and I'll see you next time. But for now, End Card Dance Party!
Can you feel life moving through your mind? Ooh, looks like it came back for more. Yeah.
What the? Reese. You fucking moron.